Hi friends, this is Terry from the Frugal Connection. I want to welcome you to my kitchen today. I hope you're having a great day. The weather here has been very strange today. 1 second the sun is out, I make a decision I'm going to go for a walk, I get all ready, and then I look out the window and it's pouring rain. So I take everything off, I go about doing whatever I was doing before that, and then the sun comes back out again. So it doesn't know whether it wants to sun or shine. So I thought that this would be a great day to show you a new recipe, to give you some creative ideas how to use whole grains and incorporate them in your cooking in a way that is fun and yet gives you the necessary nutrients that you need. This particular recipe is quinoa, chickpea, flax meal wraps. And I find that it's very difficult for me. The one thing that I had a struggle with giving up when I started this whole way of eating plant-based whole foods was bread. I love to bake bread. I've made sourdough. I've made any kind of artisan bread you can imagine. I used to sell them at the farmers markets. I made them for friends. It was kind of a staple on our table because it helped make our dollars stretch. So when I I started eating this way, one of the things that I looked for was a good wrap that I could use from time to time when I was making something like, like a bean mixture, like an enchilada, or I have a chickpea salad recipe that I use that you can eat it on on a wrap. But a lot of those foods that you can eat, you can buy in the store, are very expensive. Like, for example, I love Ezekiel bread. I liked Ezekiel wraps, but I am so frugal and I don't want to spend $7 to $8 on 6 wraps, which is what it basically costs around here. So I found a recipe online way back when I first started, and it was for quinoa wraps, and it really just called for 2 ingredients. It called for quinoa, it called for water. But I didn't find it that tasty. It didn't really give me that bite I was looking for, that texture I was looking for. So I played around, and I've done a lot of experimenting in the kitchen, and I kind of came up with this recipe, which I want to share with you, and hopefully you will find it appealing as well. What this calls for is 1 cup of quinoa. And what I've done with my quinoa, and you need to soak your quinoa if you're going to use it in a raw application like this, is I just covered the quinoa with water. I didn't measure, just enough to make sure it was under the water, and you have to let it soak. I've seen recipes where they say half an hour to an hour. I find the longer you let it soak, the better it is for your digestion. So I let mine soak for at least 3 hours, preferably overnight if I can. But for these purposes, I soaked it for 3 hours, rinsed it well. I drained it into this strainer. I rinsed it really well, and now I'm going to use it in here. The other recipe is chickpea flour, or besan flour, or besan, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. It's B-E-S-A-N flour, which is just pure chickpea flour, and that gives it a little more of a bread texture without the processed part of like all-purpose flour. So, and this is gluten-free. And then whenever I can, I add flax meal, flax seeds into whatever it is that I am baking, because the flax will give you those omega-3 fatty acids that you need, especially if you are on an exclusively plant-based whole food or vegan diet. So I try to get these in as much as possible, and I do keep, I think I've mentioned this before, I keep my flax meal in the freezer because flax meal can go rancid very quickly, along with flax seeds can too. And the problem with flax seed is that it just does not digest well. And so basically it's just going through your system and it's giving you no nutritional benefit whatsoever if it's not getting into your bloodstream. So I go with the flax meal, keep it in my freezer. I just take out what I want when I want it, and that's good to go. We have water, and I do add a little bit of garlic powder to mine because I just like the garlicky taste. So this is so simple and so easy to come together. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. So I have a high-speed blender. You kind of need that. Food processor may work, but I just find that the high-speed blender really breaks everything down well. So I'm going to dump my quinoa in here. Okay, get that all in there. Quinoa is one of those things that sticks to everything when you're trying to get it off your hands when it's wet. Okay, and then I have my chickpea flour. I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to take 3 tablespoons of flax meal. And I'm going to add that in here as well. Okay. Get that out of the way. And I am going to put in about, I'm going to put in a half a teaspoon of garlic powder. You can add a little bit of salt if you want. I'm keeping it salt-free, but if you don't have issues with salt or you want to use salt, you can certainly do that. A lot of the reasons these plant-based recipes don't call for salt is because salt can just trigger that part of your taste buds that are going to want you to keep eating. And so I just find that my taste buds have adjusted over time. I still do, full disclosure, I still do use salt in some things, but not as much as I ever used to. I mean, it's minuscule amount. And I have found over time that my taste buds have adjusted to it. Okay, and I don't miss it now at all. All right, so now I'm going to add 1.5 cups of water. If I find it's not the consistency I want, the consistency you want to go for here is kind of like a thin pancake batter, more like a crepe batter. So if I find if I need more, I will add more water, but if I add too much to begin with, I can't take it back. So that's what I'm going to start with, and I'm just going to dump this all in here. And I can already tell that it might be that I'm going to need more. All right, I'm going to put the lid on. This started, and I'm just going to start it on low, so it's going to get noisy for a minute. You want it to go so that it grinds up all that quinoa and makes a smooth consistency. You don't want chunks of quinoa left. All right, I think we're good. Yeah, actually, this is exactly what you want. It's just kind of like a watery batter. And I know it doesn't look like, how is this going to turn into a wrap? I'm going to show you very shortly. I'm going to get my pan heated up on the stove. I use a good nonstick pan, and you want to get it nice and hot. And I will meet you back over by my stove in a minute. Okay, friends, welcome back. I have my pan heating up here. It's getting hot. I have it on about a medium heat right now. I can already tell you I'm going to have to, once we get going and it gets hotter, I'm going to have to turn it down a little bit. But the goal here is to start with an extremely hot pan because we are not using oil as we fry these or, bake them. We are going to just use the hot pan, and then once I pour it in the pan and get it spread around, then I'm going to let it go. I'm not going to touch it. The tendency is to want to fiddle with it because you're afraid that it might be getting done on the bottom, or it's going to burn. And as long as you keep an eye on it, I find that I don't need to do messing with it at all, because what will happen is as it cooks underneath and it gets fully cooked, it will easily release from the pan, and then I can flip it. Like pancakes, the first one or two you do may be a little not quite right, and that's okay, because this recipe makes quite a bit. In fact, I think I can make, I'm trying to remember. I want to say I can make about 10 crepes with this, so we shall see. So I think my pan is good to go. It's been going for a little bit. All right, so now I'm going to pour just a teeny tiny bit in here, and I'm just going to kind of spread it around. Now, if you find it's too thick, you might want to loosen it up with some water. What happens, because it's got the chickpea flour in it, it does start to absorb some of the liquid. And what I do is I just take a spatula or like a silicone thing, and I spread it around. You don't want it any thickness. Like already I can tell this one is too thick. And I think I am going to add a little more water to my batter. I had put a cup and a half in, and I think I'm going to add another half cup. Or actually, maybe I'll do a quarter cup. All right. So, there you go. I don't know if you can see it. It's already starting to cook. It cooks pretty quickly. I find that since I changed the recipe and I use one with chickpea flour, that it cooks a lot quicker, which is not a problem because I don't always have a lot of time to just stand over the sink. Let me get my measuring cup. Actually, I think I'm going to add just a quarter cup more. Not even. I added about 1/8 of a cup. I just want to thin this up a little bit. You want it really thin. You want it almost like, I don't even know what texture this would be. I guess the only thing I can describe it as is like a crepe texture. Now, I'm looking at this and I already see, like I probably kept it a little too thick, but it's almost cooked all the way through. But you're going to just leave it for a few minutes. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. So now I'm on medium-low. And as soon as I think it's getting ready to unstick, now watch what happens. I cook these all the time with no problem. But now that I'm trying to do it for the camera, it's going to... Okay, well, here we go. You kind of just go around the edges till it loosens up. All right, now see that is kind of pale, so I probably turned it too soon. But again, the first one, it's okay. Don't worry about it. It's still yummy, even if it doesn't look good. What I do with these is I can eat them just like this. They're very flexible and pliable. You can roll them up. You can use them as a wrap. But I have found the thing that I love the best because I think I have, everybody has a different type of texture or thing that they crave. And I really love crunchy thing. In fact, a lot of what I craved when I wasn't eating this way wasn't so much the sweets, was more like the salty, crunchy chips, things like that. So this kind of gives me that fix. So what I do is I'll take for lunch, if I want to use my chickpea salad, I'll take like 2 or 3 of these wraps because they're only about 45 calories each wrap. And I will put them on a baking sheet with some parchment paper, and I will throw them in the oven and let them crisp up on one side, and then I flip them and they crisp on the other side. And then I put that down as a base on my plate. I'll put a little bit of the chickpea salad, and then I will put some vegetables, some lettuce, cucumber, tomato, and squeeze a little lime juice over the top, or a little lemon juice, or a little balsamic vinegar. And it just gives me exactly what I'm looking for without all the bad stuff, without the oil, without the sugar, without the heavy salting that all of these processed foods have. All right, let's take a look and see what's going on here. Yeah, now I can feel it. It still feels a little moist, so I'm going to leave it alone. And what I find is that if it's a little too pale on one side, when it gets done on the second side, I usually will flip it back over again and let it go again. But like I said, the first one always turns out like this. It's just like when I make pancakes. The first pancake is always the sacrificial lamb that just gets, no, we're eating plant-based, so it's not really a lamb. The sacrifice, and it usually gets tossed because it just is kind of a flop. And then they get better and better as the pan gets hotter. Okay, yeah, that's not done yet. Now you see how it looks like it's done, but you do want it to be a little bit brown. So I'm going to let it alone. My tendency is to mess with it. So I'm going to shut the camera off for now. I'm going to make a few more of these, and then I will turn it back on when it gets a little closer to the end so that you can see the end result. And I'll probably walk you through the last pancake or two, because the process speeds up the hotter the pan gets, and I have to keep adjusting my pan temperature. All right, I'll see you shortly. Welcome back. I'm still plugging away here. As you can see, I made a flop of the first couple. This one's turned out the best so far, but you can see it's pliable. You can roll it up. You can use it as kind of like a wrap for a sandwich. One thing I would suggest possibly doing is putting hummus on it with some veggies and just rolling it up and doing a little snack with that. So these are really great. They're flexible. You can I keep them in a freezer bag and just keep them on my counter because they don't last very long. You can make them bigger than this. Like, this pan is not a big pan. You can get a larger pan or a griddle and make big giant wraps. I just know my weaknesses, and bread is one of them. So I keep them small so I can kind of manage the serving size, and I won't overeat them, hopefully. The only danger is when I do first make them, I have a tendency to want to keep eating, so I have to stop. So I've taken that one off, and what I have found, I've gotten in a rhythm here that if I just put about, let me show you. I don't know what size dollop that is. That's like the size of a teeny tiny pancake, like a little silver dollar pancake. But then I take my spatula here and I just spread it all around into a very thin layer in the pan. Fill in the gaps, get it all spread out evenly to the size I want. You want it even. You don't want it thicker in some spots than others. And some people actually just use the bottom of a measuring cup, and you just run the measuring cup around it till you get it to the desired thickness. So anyway, that's good for me. And again, the other thing you have to do is you just have to leave it alone. You have to let it totally cook through, heat up underneath. Now that the pan is hot, it takes probably about 2 to 3 minutes. And then I just gently go around the pan with my spatula, get underneath it, and it's fairly loose at that point, and I can just kind of gently get it all unstuck from the pan and then flip it. So there you go. Those are quinoa, chickpea, flax meal wraps. I just wanted to share this recipe with you just to give you some different ideas of what you can do. I think the thing I love about plant-based cooking is just, it's fun. It's like fun to experiment in the kitchen and see what you can come up with. Like I've mentioned before, sometimes things work really well. Sometimes they're kind of a dud. But they're always, I like them. I love to experiment, and to me it's just kind of a fun thing to do. I will get this recipe linked down below. I will put it on my website, which is thefrugalconnection.com. So I'll type it up on my blog there so that you can see it there and print it out if you want to. And if you like this video, if you don't mind liking, subscribing, and sharing, especially if you hit that subscribe button, that really does help this channel. It helps me to get the word out there that I exist. YouTube has this, I started this whole journey because I wanted to help people who were struggling with their weight and wanted to learn how to change their diet into this way of eating. But I always get one of two things. I get it's too expensive or it's too difficult. So I wanted to combine all of my loves together in this one thing. And so basically I wanted to show that you can cook this way with just a few simple ingredients. You do not have to go out and buy fancy ingredients. In fact, my grocery bill has gone down since I started eating plant-based whole foods. But it's not difficult. It really isn't. In fact, it probably takes me about 15 minutes in the evening to put my dinner together. It's very quick. The only time it takes a little bit longer is if it's something that needs to be baked or simmered on top of the stove. But it is a very quick way to eat. But while I was doing that, I decided to start the YouTube channel because I felt like I could do some teaching as I cook to show you exactly how to do it. and maybe make a little bit of money on the side. But YouTube, the way they work it, you can't get your channel monetized unless you have 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. So at this point, I'm just thinking, I'm going to just do it anyway because I enjoy teaching. It's one of my gifts, and I find it fun to do. So I hope you enjoy this video. But again, if you could, please hit the subscribe button. You can like it and you can share it, and that'll help me get my word out about this way of eating. My book, Simple and Nutritious, 52 Plant-Based Whole Food Recipes, can be found on Amazon, and I will put that link down below. I will also link the moong dal, I'm sorry, I didn't use moong dal, the chickpea flour and the quinoa that I used in this recipe, as well as the flax meal. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at your local grocery store, though. You can find it all different ways. Anyway, I hope you have a great day. I hope you take the plunge and just start experimenting and trying your hand at different recipes. And I know you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And I hope you have a good day. Bye.